What up, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. On this channel, we talk about how to raise money successfully using crowdfunding and also how to get your product out there to the world, how to reach your full potential as a person, as a creator, as a business owner, as someone who's an innovator, as someone who's invented something new. Really talk about how to reach your full potential and use these principles so you can actually raise money, build a community, and you can get your product out there. And today, I want to touch on what I think is a real reason, the number one reason why campaigns get funded and actually what's actually holding you back. And we'll talk about that in today's video. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever actually seen results that happen in the real world? So for example, you've been browsing on Kickstarter.com and you notice how these campaigns got funded and you're like, how the heck could this product get funded? Or you've been browsing on Indiegogo and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this guy raised this much. Maybe you saw a news story and you're like, this campaign on regulation crowdfunding platform, like on WeFunder, on Start, this guy raised $1 million. How the heck did that happen? Well, a lot of the times when we actually see results in the real world, it's not that this is impossible, right? It's really about understanding the process that went in for that outcome to occur. I try to think of it almost in the way of a scientist. How would a scientist engineer an experience where they would actually create a repeatable experiment that can produce the same results? And when you see something in the real world, you don't think, okay, that's like magic, right? It's not something that's magic. There's a scientific process that actually got to that end result. And the same is true of crowdfunding. So what I want to talk about today is kind of what leads to a successful outcome. Okay, so what leads to success, and specifically the outcome that you're going for here, okay? So your outcome could be different. Your outcome, for example, could be, I wanna raise a bunch of money so I can produce this product and get it out there to millions of people, right? Your outcome could be, I wanna build an audience. I wanna get tons of people around the globe excited about this new cause that I'm trying to launch. Your outcome could be, hey, Sal, I wanna be able to build a brand from nothing so that people around the globe are talking about this brand. Someday I'd even love to have a product in the world. Your outcome could be, Sal, I wanna be able to raise investment capital for my company, right? And I wanna use crowdfunding to be able to do that. Whatever your outcome, however success looks to you, these are some of the things that I want to go through to help you not only achieve that outcome more reliably, but it's also consistently what I've seen produce successful outcomes in my coaching, in the 400 plus, I think it is now, podcast interviews that I've done with people who have raised 6 and 7 figures using their crowdfunding campaigns. I want to share this with you today. So the first element when it comes to this is more of a habit or a trait. And if you don't possess this trait, you don't possess this habit, it's very unlikely that you're going to be successful. I'm just being honest with you guys. Like I'm not trying to say this is bad necessarily or that you have bad habits. I'm just trying to be honest and really share it and keep it real, right? Keep it real, keep it how it is. So this is passion. And the reason why is that passion is connected to one thing, and that is persistence, okay? When you have passion for a project, when you really can't get this idea out of your head, you can't get this product off your mind, you're working on this thing after work and you're excited to do that, you're working on this on the weekend and you're just like, this is flowing through, this energy, this excitement, this wanting to get this out there, and you're like a little kid again almost, like the passion that you have. That is a hallmark of what's going to lead to success. It's not the only thing, but it's one of the major elements of every person that I've talked to has been successful on my podcast, every coaching student that I've had has been successful in my own life, the projects that worked well for me, and those that didn't, there's always passion because that leads to persistence, right? When you're passionate about something, you're willing to persist and go through sometimes difficult times. That could be uncomfortable for someone else to work on a project after work. They don't want to do that. They want to go and relax. They want to chill. They want to watch Netflix or Hulu or Paramount Plus or whatever it is that you're watching nowadays, right? They want to do that. Whereas you, because you're passionate, you're willing to persist through the difficult times. It's not even difficult to you, right? Same thing would be persistence through the hard times. Because you're so passionate about this, because it's maybe a little bit difficult now, you can actually persist through that valley in order to get to the upside, which is the incredible lush green, which is awaiting you at the end of that journey, right? So you need to have passion and you need to have persistence. Number 2 is you got to show up, okay? You got to show up. And by this, I mean do the work, okay? Now, there are a lot of ways in which you can interpret that. So work by that. What do I mean by work, right? And what do I mean by showing up? By showing up, it doesn't have to be necessarily every single day, right? I know you have a life outside this. This is maybe something you're working on, something you're working towards, but you do have to be willing to show up on a consistent basis. And it's almost to the point where if you don't show up, it feels weird. It's like, what? I didn't work on my project this week, right? It feels a little bit off. I don't like that feeling. Same way with me, when I'm not actively working on my business, I'm like, I feel off. I don't feel happy. I'm not excited about this for some reason, right? I want to always be working and moving consistently towards my goals. You got to show up. And by that, I mean, even doing micro tasks related to your project. Maybe that's learning a bit about the platform this week. Maybe that's deciding what kind of video you're going to make. Maybe that's even something just even smaller, which is starting your social media profiles. You got to be willing to show up, and you got to be willing to do the work. And you need to do this consistently. It has to be at least you're spending just a tiny bit of time every single week or every other week moving forward. And I've done a survey actually on kickstarterforum.org, which is actually a forum that I started that now has over 10,000 members, which is amazing. I did a survey, and most creators were spending at least about 4 to 5 hours on their project every single week. And usually that equates to being after work, on the weekend, when they get some spare time here and there. You gotta be willing to consistently show up and do the work. And what that does is it begin to see results working in your favor, but it also creates confidence, okay? So by confidence, I'm talking about solving problems. So I'd say a lot of the students, maybe not the majority actually, but a lot of the students that I work with, a lot of the times it's their first product, it's their first business. They haven't really done this before. And they're like, you know what, Sal, I don't even know if I can come out with a new product. I don't even know if I can make a new campaign. I don't know if I can actually raise money for this. I don't know if I can even get investors interested in my project. Whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, whatever your outcome is, this doing work, showing up, getting small results here and there, it begins to build momentum. And you start to develop confidence that you can actually solve these problems. You can actually figure out the Rubik's Cube. You can actually move forward, and you do see success show up in your life in small ways. So for example, this almost always is an epiphany when I'm working with coaching students, for example, it starts to see the first people that they don't know that aren't members of their friends or family be interested in the product and shoot the messages on social media. And they're like, oh my gosh, look at this is so cool. And it's because it's validation, it's showing proof. And then it's just about scalability, right? If you got a couple of people that are interested, you just need to multiply that. It's really not rocket science, right? You have to make sure that you show up. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description. Number 3 is that you're going to want to, and again, this is the same for every person I've had on the podcast, every person I've worked with that's been successful. You need to study the process. Study the process. Now, what process am I referring to, right? Because that could be interpreted in many different ways as well. Well, there are different processes that go into getting a product made, for example. Let's say you're doing Kickstarter or Indiegogo. There's different processes that go into getting a product made. You need to understand maybe how to get designs. You need to understand where to source the product. You understand what materials, how to do marketing, how to do branding, right? You need to be willing to study the process. If it's crowdfunding, you're trying to get to that Kickstarter campaign, trying to raise money in Indiegogo, you're trying to raise money with a crowdfunding campaign, you got to understand the process to be able to do that. The more that you understand the process, which for many of us is almost like a mystery, right? That mystery is this really gray cloud that it's like, I don't know what's on the other side of that. And it creates an amount of fear and uncertainty because we don't understand the process. When you understand the process, it's like, oh, I know exactly what I gotta do. I know what problems I have to solve. I know the solutions to those problems as well. I know I can work through this, and it builds confidence, and you have a sense of this is all at ease, right? If you're gonna go skydiving, do you wanna go with the guy who doesn't know the process? You wanna go with the guy who has done it a couple thousand times? Funny story there, I actually was skydiving, and the guy was like, yeah, this is like my 3rd jump, man. I was like, what? He's like, nah, just kidding, right? So skydiving is a great activity. Definitely check that out. So study the process. Make sure that you understand the process, whether that's with the product, whether that's with crowdfunding, whether that's with marketing. Really just be willing to soak it up like a sponge, right? Be willing to be that sponge and just absorb all of those teaching, all of that knowledge, all of that education related to the process. And the more that you can do that, it really de-risks the entire endeavor. But also the cool thing about this is that you're gonna move much faster through the process as well. So every single person that I've been to is like, you know what? Man, I've been really studying this. I've been studying this after work. I've been listening on my runs. I've been listening to your podcast, right? When I've been doing other stuff, when I've been cleaning the house. This is something where if you can integrate this into your life, and it almost becomes like a mini obsession for that period of your life, you then begin to learn very, very quickly. You start to get results when it comes to your success very, very quickly, and you move closer and closer to the outcome which you want to have. I've actually had a number of people as well on my show that will literally just message and directly message other Kickstarter creators to get advice as well. And the same goes with regulation crowdfunding. Number 4, and this is, I'd arguably say, one of the more difficult ones, and there's a lot of emotions that are tied to this. You gotta be willing to invest. Okay. When I say invest, there are many ways to take this. There are many different paths, right? But by investment, I mean that you need to be all in. You gotta be willing to invest your time. You gotta be willing to invest your attention. You gotta be willing to invest your money, right? You gotta be willing to invest the resources that you have at your disposal. You gotta be willing to even invest your image in some cases, for the fact that maybe this launch isn't gonna go out super well. What happens if no one wants to buy this thing? What happens if no one wants my offering when a campaign, no one's gonna actually invest in my company? What happens if no one is gonna donate money when it comes to this charity crowdfunding campaign, right? You gotta be willing to invest in the process as well. And I would say that this really does separate a lot of the more successful people that I know from those that are not successful. Because when you're not willing to invest, it's almost like you are kind of trying to jump into the pool on one end, but you're on the other side, you're like trying to desperately not get into it, right? You're just trying to dip your toes in at the same time. It's kind of like, you have part of you that's really gung-ho, really excited, and then another part of you that's holding back out of fear, right? And a lot of people are like, Sal, I am holding back out of fear because I need these funds in order to actually get this project there off the ground. And I agree with you. I agree with you that there are resource constraints. However, in order for you to get other people excited, in order for you to market your campaign, in order for other people to take a chance on you, you have to believe in you. So you gotta be all in. You gotta be investing in terms of your education, investing in terms of your actual products, putting money into it, putting money into advertising, putting a budget, etc. You gotta be willing to invest when it comes to your time after work, right, on the weekends, etc. You gotta be willing to invest in order to see success. And the more that you actually invest in the process, the more that you work hard and really make this just an era of your life. It's not gonna be forever, right? But make this an era of your life where you're not, I'm gonna have just tunnel vision. I'm really gonna invest, really focus on this in order to get that outcome that I'm looking for. Number 5, my number 5 point when it comes to the things that you need to do, the things that really lead to funding, success, the outcome that you want from this process is to identify and obviously uncover, but also I'd say just like be willing to seek out systems, okay? So we're gonna talk about systems. So why are systems important? What is a system? A system is a series of processes or checklist items or procedures that is designed to have some kind of an outcome. So for example, if you're trying to have any kind of an outcome when it comes to working out, a system would be the diet and exercise that you need to do in order to have that kind of an outcome. And also you probably need a trainer as well if you're working out, right? To keep us accountable as well as we're moving through this system. If someone progresses through a system and they also maybe have a coach or a trainer or someone to help them as well while they're progressing through this system, they're almost virtually guaranteed to get that outcome. It's not that don't have the knowledge, right? It's not that we're not smart enough to be able to, get that, shred the pounds or to be able to put on muscle. It's that we need to be willing to go through the system. We need to be willing to invest in going through the system. We need to have people that are holding us accountable as we're going through that system. So a system, by its very nature, is designed to get results, right? And it usually does it on a consistent basis. It's almost like in a scientific basis that based on this procedure of steps, of tools, of resources, of tactics, of strategies, whatever it is, by going through this, you get a result at the end of it. Does that make sense? So I was trying to think of an analogy for this. You think about for example, if you're trying to make cookies or bake cookies, right? Let's just say there's a plant out there that can turn dough and eggs, all the ingredients and resources that go into cookies. You put this in and it goes through a system and out pops a bunch of little chocolate chip cookies. Like, that's delicious. That makes me hungry just even thinking about that, right? I want to break my diet just to think about that. So you got this system where you got all these resources, you got this great cookie dough, you got everything, all those things that are put here, right? And it's only by putting it through a particular process or a system that you're actually able to get those wonderful, delicious, great smelling chocolate chip cookies, if that makes sense. If you're the first person in the history of the world to try to make chocolate chip cookies, how does that work? Well, a chocolate chip cookie has never been invented. Oh my gosh, I don't want to be a part of that alternate universe. I want chocolate chip cookies, right? But let's just say that you do exist in this alternate universe. What would you have to do? You'd have to experiment. You try it out once and it's like, oh, this tastes really strange. You try it again, it's like, oh, I added too much sugar. It's almost like too sweet in this way. So you're always constantly experimenting, trying things out, and eventually maybe you get a process down, or maybe you don't, and maybe you discover that someone else has an even better process than you did, right? So it's really about understanding the recipe, the process, the system. And if one already exists, you're not just gonna go out there and be like, you know what, I'm gonna go to the store today, Sal, and I'm gonna try to figure out how to make chocolate chip cookies. You're gonna be like, no, you're gonna look it up, right? You're gonna see how to actually do this. You really wanna get really well. You might even hire someone to teach you how to bake, right? If you really wanna have incredibly stellar, delicious, beautiful chocolate chip cookies and other desserts, you might hire someone to help and teach you, right? But there's a process that's defined that if you go through, it gets a particular end result. And sometimes, even if we understand the process, it does behoove you to have other people with you to actually help, like lean over and look over your shoulder and make sure you're doing it right. Because oftentimes you still follow the process and you messed up something and the chocolate chip cookies don't turn out the way that you thought. So be willing to seek out systems. I'd say the easiest way is just to go and listen to my podcast. I have a great podcast out there, Crowdfunding Demystified. I've also written the book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, which really tries to boil all this down for you into a formula which you can follow. In addition, I have other great stuff out there. Got a free course on Kickstarter. So you can go to crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter, include a link down below. You can go through this free course, kind of a bite-sized way to learn how to actually do this entire process, eating the whale one chunk at a time, as an analogy, I guess. But I also talk about this obviously in my coaching calls. You can go check that out down below. But these are the things that are very common when it comes to seeing success, getting the outcome you want, and actually getting the results. Every single person that I know that has been successful has gone through this process. They have the passion which leads to persistence. They're showing up all the time. They're doing the work. That's producing even more confidence, creating more momentum in their life. They're studying the heck out of the process. And they're not only that, they're also studying other people that have been successful, other people that are seeing results. They're also obviously investing tremendous amounts of their time, energy, their own resources in this, and they are developing a system. And that's defined by the fact that many of the people I've had on my show as well also have done multiple campaigns. So there is a process that you can follow. And this is something to me that's one of the most exciting parts about crowdfunding. One of the things I love to create systems in my life. I love to document things. I love to bring new teachings and educations to you. I love to put out free content. So to me, this is really a passion. This is my passion. This is my labor of love. And I've been persistent at it since 2012. And I've been doing it for a really long time. So I enjoy this. If you did like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Come subscribe for more content like this. Go and check out those links in the show notes. And I will see you next time.